anytime you're working with the glass or any type of solution, whether or not it's safe. Okay, so what you're going to be working with here are these micropipettes. On your stations, there are 4 micropipettes. You are primarily going to be working with 3 of them. The first one, which has a gray top in your cases, is a micropipette that takes volumes from 1 microliter to 10 microliter, right? So very, very small volumes. You know, there are others that go from 0.1 to 2 as well. So even smaller volumes, but these ones take special tips. We do use them occasionally to treat ourselves with a particular drug, for example, which is super concentrated and we need to give just a couple of microliters. When that happens, I have special autoclave tips. So they are sterile, so you can use them with yourselves. And I don't take them out all the time because then they don't remain sterile anymore. What you're going to be working with for the most part are the remaining 3. They should be in order, but they may not be on your bench. One of them is gonna, for most of you, will have an orange top. And if you look on the side, it will tell you the range for which it can be used. So these ones say 5 to 50 microliters. You never want to use them for above or below the range that is mentioned on them. That's step 1, okay? This is essentially the pump portion of pipetting, just like this is equivalent to this, right? It's just a lot more precise and accurate, right? And it can do minute volumes. The actual vessel in which you're picking up the liquid are the tips that come with it. There should be 2 boxes in your bin that you're going to be using, and you can take those 2 boxes out right now if you'd like, because you will be using both of them. One is going to be a lot larger and will have blue tips inside. You want to take them out, by the way, very carefully, especially the blue box, because if the lid pops off, all the tips are going to flip over and fall out. And the second one is this smaller box, which has yellow tips inside. And so that's going to be, those little tips are where you're going to pick up your volumes. Now, the other pipettes that you'll have something that's either just clear or it will have a yellow top. And that's going to go from 20 microliters to 200 microliters. Again, on the side, you should be able to see the volume that it can be used for. We will normally call them by the highest volume that they can be used for. So if I tell you, hey, make sure you're using your P50, I meant this orange top one, the one that goes from 5 to 50. Or P200 would be this yellow top one. Both the orange and the yellow ones, the P50 and P200, use the same yellow tips. And that can be a little bit of a problem, right? So if you look in this window on the side, on the other side of your pipette, you will notice 3 in that little open space. There are 3 little slots. And so on a P50, there is a decimal point that's visible. That decimal points tend, as they grow older, as they've been in use longer, tends to get rubbed off. And sometimes also when we are in a hurry, we don't notice the decimal point. So let's say I wanted to pick up 150 microliter of liquid, but I accidentally picked the orange pipette, used the yellow tip, and put 150. How much volume am I really putting in? 15, exactly. Much smaller than I meant, right? And that can be a big problem. So you always want to be careful about that and make sure, especially for the yellow tip, that you're picking up the right pipette for the work that you're doing, for the volume that you're picking up. Okay, and then the last pipette that you have is the 100 to 1,000 microliters, so up to 1 ml, right? And these use the blue tips that are on your bench as well. So the blue tips don't fit anything else but these, so it's very easy. And the yellow tips won't fit that one. So that's very hard to mess up. The yellow ones are the only ones that you kind of have to be double checking. The gray ones, while they fit the yellow tips, they don't pick up the correct volume with it, and the tips don't pop off of them. So it's not a good idea to use them. And obviously it's not going to be the right volume anyway. All the tips, when you're discarding them, should only go in a sharp spin. On your benches, there are individual sharp pins, right, for each station to use. To pick up the volume, you first want to set the volume on this pump. You set it by turning the dial on the top. If you move it away from you, the number should go down. If you move it towards you, the number should go up. At this point, one person in the group pick up the yellow and one person pick up the orange and set it to the lowest volume that it can be used for. So if you have a P50, move it to 5. If you have a P20 or P200, move it to 20. Go ahead and set it to the lowest volume.
How come the dial goes below 20?
It can go below 20, it will lose calibration below 20. So you don't want to do that. Plus, if you turn it too much beyond the extremes, it will actually get stuck in that place. And then my hands have neuropathy anyway, so I can no longer fix them very easily. And if we send them to the technician, they take forever to fix them and then they have to calibrate them. So it's not a good choice. You always want to be careful towards the edge. Again, just like your serological pipettes, you always want to hold them in their resting position in a vertical place. You don't want to hold them tilted because that's going to, again, introduce inaccuracy from introduction of air and cause bubbles in your sample, right? So you want to hold it just like that, be comfortable in that position. Now go ahead and press that same dial that you used to turn, right? Just keep it in a vertical resting position, press the dial. You should feel a resistance, yeah? And then press it all the way down, press it more, and you should feel it go further down. Everyone feels 2 stops, 1 point of resistance, and then when you push it further, you get to another spot where you can't push any further, yeah? So that first stop is what we call a calibrated stop. It's going to be dictated by the volume that you set on here. So let's see how that changes if you set it to the highest volume that it can be used for. So if you have a P200, go ahead and set it to 200. If you have a P50, go ahead and set it to 50. Again, as you reach the extremes of your pipette limit, right, you want to be a little bit careful, watch it closely and not go beyond it. A lot to go before I get there in some of them. Okay, so once you've set it to the highest, looking at it, you should already see something different, right? There's a lot more space in that. Now go ahead and feel for that first stop, and then press further and feel the second stop, right? First, second. So you should still feel 2 stops, but what's different? Yeah, it takes a lot longer to get to that first stop because you're picking up a lot higher volume. So the calibration, the calibrated stop is now a lot further. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to go to the calibrated stop to pick up the volume that you want to pick up. If you go beyond it, you're going to pick extra volume. It's not going to be what you wanted. To expel the liquid, in most cases, you are fine going all the way down. And that all the way down does the same thing as, you know, how in this one I said, dial up just a little bit to produce, have some, that's what it is. It's going to blow out that extra liquid. Having said that, sometimes we have buffers that have, some soap in it or some other components that can bubble. And in those cases, we prevent bubbles by just going to the calibrated stop and being very careful, mindful of that, because you don't want to create those bubbles. But you got that? First stop, second stop. Okay, let's pick some liquid with it. So again, you can use what's in your beaker. To pick up the tip, you simply push your pipette into the tip, right? Just go like that and immediately close the lid. And now your tip shouldn't fall off. If it falls off, it wasn't pushed in correctly. You want to push it in. You can use whichever one you have. It can be P200 or P50. To pick up the liquid, you first go to the calibrated stop, maybe. So you're going to first go to the calibrated stop. So the first stop outside the liquid. You then put your pipette into the liquid and you push up. You don't want to push the pipette all the way into the liquid. You just want to go a little bit in, like a millimeter into the liquid, right? Because if you put all the way down, Again, if it's a viscous liquid, it's going to get some of it on the outer surface. And that's going to produce inaccuracy in your final sample. And you don't want that. You want to keep the pipette vertical at all times. And you can tilt the tube that you're working with to expel or to move in a position that is easier for you. To expel the liquid, you're going to go into the side, and usually want to go against the wall of that particular vessel, whether it is a tube or a beaker or whatever, and push all the way out. Keeping an eye on the liquid, making sure all the liquid has left before you pick up your thumb and pull out your pipette. Okay? And then to release the tip, there'll be a little lever on the side that you can push down, and it will take off your tip into the sharp socket. Pull. So it's very easy to pipette accurately once or twice or even 3 times. But when we're doing an experiment, many times we are pipetting a particular volume multiple times, maybe 10 times or 20 times or even 96 times. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Somebody was not being nice to them. It's inside.
Yeah, I didn't want to reach in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't reach in there either. I'll fix that for you. In the moment, for the moment, you can take the one on the other side. That was fun. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to practice pipetting specific volumes multiple times. So each person is going to be pipetting in a particular row. That little 96 well sheet template that I gave you, just sign up your name on the side of the row that you are going to be using at this time. So the stations that are sharing the plate, every single person gets a row, okay? So sign your name and basically assign yourself a row. You're going to be pipetting in 3 different volumes in the same row. So each person has only 1 row. Let's say this is your row. 1, 2, 3. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use a P50 pipette, and you are going to pipette 15 microliters of water in all those wells, all 12 wells in the row that's assigned to you. So just plain water, right? And again, I want you guys to watch my form so you kind of have an idea on how to do it and keep it vertical at all times. So going in, press, go in, press all the way down. Go to the calibrated stop before you go into the liquid, push all the way out when you go into the wells. And so I'm just going along the edge of my well and I am pipetting. I'm using the same pipette tip for the entire row, so for all 12. As long as you're not mixing with other liquids that are present in there, you can use the exact same tip. And you shouldn't be, because you shouldn't be interacting with other liquids inside that well to prevent the stuff that's on the outside of your tip from interacting with those, right? You don't want that to enter your liquid and destroy your accuracy. You just want the liquid that's inside the tip to enter in there. So once I have done that, I discarded the tip after I went through the entire row. And that was my step 1. Next, I'm going to take my P200, right? And with my P200, I am going to put 50 microliters of methylene blue in the same exact wells. So I put 50 microliters on top of the 15, and you'll see 15 microliters is super tiny, right? So on top of that, again, going along the edge, along the top of the well, I'm not interacting with the water inside, and I'm gonna put 50 microliters of methylene blue. So I'm gonna go in. Oops, let's set that first. Let's see. Now, you would say, well, P50, right, can also pick up 50 microliters. Why do I have to use P200? You always want to use the pipette where the number that you're using it is not like all the way to the extremes, right? That lies somewhere within it. So P200 is going to be more accurate at pipetting 50 microliters than a P50. Okay. Okay. So now I used to have these multiple volumes all as water. And then I noticed that students halfway through this exercise would get lost and they'd be like, I don't know if I put 50 microliter in this well or not. So I made the second step blue so you can visually see where you are. I'm being nice in the beginning. It all goes downhill from here. So I get.
If it was all water, wouldn't students do like one pipette, like use it?
I also had that issue, but I didn't want to talk about that part right now. I was trying to just say the positive things about the students. So there you go. Liquids. Keeping it vertical. See? Never moving it this way, that way, even when I'm playing. And I'm going to push it in. So remember, putting it first, getting in the liquid, and then pushing all the way down. First stop, second stop. First stop, second stop. First stop, second stop. Cool. So I'm going to do it all the way down to the 12 wells. And now I have more liquid in there. I can actually see it. Again, no need to be interacting with that liquid. No need to be pushing your tip all the way down. You're just putting it on top of the well, along the edge and pushing it. And so now I can see some liquid there, right? Faint blue. And now the last volume that you need to do is going to be your P1000. And this time you're going to go back to our water. So you're going to take 150 microliters of your water and put that in the same one. So at the end of the day, you're going to have 250 microliter of total volume. Yeah. Cool. So same idea. Going in, 150 microliters, blue tip this time, water. And so, sometimes people say, well, which one should we do first, the largest volume or the smallest volume? What do you think? Why? What happened? Anyone else? In case you mess up. I already lost my place. I know, it's okay. I usually mess up on purpose anyway, at some point in there, so I can show you what that would look like, but that's okay. See? So overall, it's okay. I think my well too has a little bit on the outside. I got a little bit on the outside, but overall, it's fine. So you'll have your entire row done like that. So the reason you want to start with the lowest volume many times is because, let's say you're at the end of the day, you want these mixtures to be mixed up, right? Whatever you're putting in together. I'm assuming your idea is that eventually there'll be homogeneous solutions of some sort. Well, it's a lot easier to mix a smaller volume with a bigger volume if you put the bigger volume on top of the smaller one, not the other way around. Otherwise, especially if that more concentrated probably solution is more viscous, it's just going to go to the bottom. It's never going to mix. But if you put that first and then squirt the diluent on top of it, it's more a chance that it's going to be well mixed. That's our reasoning, at least. Okay, so once you've done that, what we are going to do is reuse the plate reader again. And so you must be wondering, well, how is that going to help? So typically, we use the spectrophotometer where, so imagine this to be the well, right? And you have some solution with the methylene blue. So you have these blue particles, right, floating around. And so when you get the light across, right, when you shine the light across, the light path sometimes will go straight through. Sometimes it's gonna bounce off. That's so not bouncing correctly, but you know, they're gonna bounce off and some of the light is gonna be absorbed, which is what we are gonna be looking at. So the more light absorbed, the more blue particles were around for the light to be bouncing off. Yeah. That's the traditional spectrophotometric measurement. So this is the light path. Now, in this case, we are not going to look at it going across. So all wells, they have a fixed width, right? They all have a particular, whether it's a cuvette or a well, they have a very particular size, a diameter across that we are working with. So it's always the same amount of the same distance from this side to this side. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to cross, have the light go up and down. Now that distance, yes, is constant too. But if you have this much liquid versus if you have this much liquid, will dictate how much of the time the light spends in that substance inside, whatever it is, whether it's just plain water or methylene blue. It doesn't have to be methylene blue. And that's going to dictate what value it provides us at the end of the day for the absorbance. So when we shine the light in the opposite direction so that we can look at how much liquid is there, it's called path length measurement. So this is looking at path length. And this can detect minute differences in the amount of liquid that's pipetted in there. If you pipetted all wells accurately, in an ideal world, your path length is going to be exactly the same, 0.666 or 0.715, whatever it is, it's going to be the same all the way across. For every well, if you miss, let's say, a 15 microliter somewhere, it's going to be a little bit different. If you miss 150 microliters somewhere, it's going to be a lot different. So that's going to help you see how well and how accurately you were pipetting as you were using the same pipette with the same tip multiple times. Yeah. So for this one, I will grade it. I will look at the data that I get and I'll have your sign up sheet so I know where your samples are. And I look at all 12 wells. I will take the average of the value that comes from well 1 through 12. And what you are allowed is average plus or minus 0.015 deviation. That's going to give me the range that's acceptable. Any number, any well that gives a number outside, above or below that range will be counted up. So it's a 10-point accuracy test. You have 12 wells, so you can technically get 12 points. For each well that you lose a point. Technically, you could go down to 2 points, but I'm usually not that bad. I usually let you have at least 1. No, 6. 6 is 50%. I usually let you have 6. Cool. Okay. I know. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. Go ahead and do your pipetting.